Pay close attention. What you're about to see is Bible prophecy being fulfilled.
Welcome to another edition of YPN News, bringing you news as it relates to Bible prophecy and foretold by Yisrayl Hawkins. Well, on today's part 2 of our special YPN News report, we're going to be covering some of the things that actually show how Yisrayl Hawkins and the House of Yahweh has been warning the world of what their choices would bring, the disasters that would come, and what they could do to actually turn it around by taking and practicing and teaching the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program to every man, woman, and child on the face of the earth. Now, if you remember our last broadcast, we did cover some graphic and disturbing images, but those images showed you kind of the current affairs and the state of our global nation, as it were, because of mankind rejecting laws of peace. Well, Yisrayl Hawkins started over 30 years ago presenting this solution to the global leaders, governments, members of the Knesset, and so forth, bringing them the peaceful solution as to what they can do to prevent what we saw last week. I want you to take a look and pay very close attention to the things that Yisrayl Hawkins has said, and kind of judge for yourself and compare it with today's news and see if those words that came forth out of his mouth haven't proven correct to this day. Take a look.
The following video presentation is a record of the prophesied work of the House of Yahweh in the land of Israel for these last days. The most striking fact about the lack of peace in the Middle East is that the root cause is being completely ignored by each side. The people, as well as the leaders, are so blind to the actual concept of peace that all they can focus on are the symptoms, the curses they are suffering. The problem is that neither side is really showing true love and concern for the other, because the laws of peace have not been taught in the land of Israel for nearly 2,000 years. You will hear Yisrayl Hawkins tell these leaders for the very first time the real cause of the hatred, unrest, oppression, and lack that the people, both Jew and Palestinian, are suffering at this time. You will hear him present the ultimate solution to the problems of the Middle East, the world, and the universe, which is, teach and live by every law of Yahweh. Yeketskia 43:10. Son of man, show the house to the house of Israel, so that they may be ashamed of their iniquities, and let them measure the pattern. The first segment is a meeting that took place in Nazareth, Israel in March of 1998 between Yisrayl Hawkins and Abed Darosha, chairman of the Arab Democratic Party and member of Knesset.
I want to talk about something that none of these guys brought you, I know, and I see it missing in all of world history, and I have studied I've kind of made it my life to study history and prophecy and scripture. I see a piece that's being ignored, mainly because it's not taught. We take our children, we put them in kindergarten at a very young age, I think about 4 to 5 years, some of them 3 years old. And we start them to coloring little pictures of soldier boys and guns in their hands, and this goes on through school. We teach them war, and as a result of that, we're teaching war, and that's what we're having. We're having it all over the world, and it's getting worse every year. The hatred is building. It starts with the churches and the synagogues and the religious groups that teach religion. They also teach, along with the religion, traditions, and if you don't follow those traditions, you become their enemy, and it's okay to kill your enemy, so they too are teaching war. And as a result, the whole world is at war. we are making a proposal to all the government leaders, and we're coming out in newspapers. We have about 170, a little over 170 TV stations we're on now, and radio stations. And we're making a proposal that would actually bring peace if we can get enough backers behind it. And we are saying that what we need, and hoping the government officials will fulfill it in some way, that what we need is to start taking about an hour or two each day on radio, television, everything, newspapers, everything we can use to reach the people, where we can reach every man, woman, and child on earth, and say we need to start teaching the laws. We need to start teaching the laws of peace. Right. And the benefits of keeping those laws. The prophet Daniel, that I know you believe in,
Yes, I do.
he and Isaiah both, they spoke of this time period that we're in right now. In fact, Daniel prophesied the 7-year peace agreement, so-called peace agreement, that Israel confirmed, Rabin confirmed. Daniel showed that that would be put together by the Catholic Church, which it was. He showed it to be a 7-year peace agreement, which it was. And he showed that it would be confirmed by Rabin, which it was.
Yeah.
And all of those prophecies came to pass. That man right there in that picture with you signed that agreement.
Yes.
What I believe, and what I'm trying to get everyone else to believe, if we don't do something, this other prophecy is going to come to pass, and Daniel says it's going to end in the worst destruction that's ever come upon the world. Isaiah, the prophet Isaiah, shows we could turn it around. In fact, he shows what the reason in Isaiah 24, 1 through 6, he says that the reason this trouble, the great tribulation is coming, is because that they have ignored the laws of peace. And the prophet Jeremiah says if we would teach those laws of peace, that we would turn the people from this evil of their way. So we got a promise by the prophets who have written this 7-year agreement and made all of these facts come true. We've got their promise that we could turn it around. You agree with me?
I agree with you.
I agree with you.
How to support,
Teaching how to support peace.
Peace. To work against wars.
I
think it's a good goal.
I think it's a great cause that I share with. I believe it is possible, but we first must change all the minds of the rulers here
And
the younger generation. I'm trying to do it every day in the Knesset. I'm talking about that, lecturing about that. When I meet any Arab or Palestinian leader, I'm talking about that.
Is a result of today's education. And today's ideology. Exactly. Yes. And that is what we've got to change. And we're going to change it. We're going to change the world.
I support the idea
of how
to educate people, especially the young
the
generation.
laws of peace.
The laws of peace instead of the laws of violence.
Of war.
The laws of war.
I agree with him.
I agree with him,
And I support
every effort that he is
to
doing
achieve these
to
goals.
achieve these goals.
May Yahweh bless you. Thank you.
The next meeting took place at the French Embassy in Tel Aviv between Yisrayl Hawkins and Mark Finot, French ambassador to Israel. Mr. Finot agreed that the education system is responsible for the current mindset of the world, and also agreed to support Yahweh's plan for peace.
This is not my latest book, but it's certainly one I would like you to read. It shows the danger of today's world, and I know in your position you know how dangerous the world is today. Other prophets that wrote of this same time period are saying that there's going to be 4/5 of the population destroyed unless we do something about it now.
There is always a fear in Europe that if violence, instability, and terrorism are allowed to develop, this will have repercussions in Europe.
The scriptures, the inspired scriptures, they have a perfect plan for peace. And in fact, this is what the prophets tell us, the same prophet Daniel that wrote the 9th chapter and talked about this 7-year peace plan that was just signed in September 13, 1993. He says the reason that we're having these curses right now is because we've ignored these laws of peace. Well, this is great. I'm glad to have met you. I feel greatly honored, and I feel greatly encouraged. You know that I feel like we can work with you, and with a number of others that we've met already this trip.
We share the same goals.
We share the same goals.
We'll get this stuff to you right away and look it over and let us know, okay? May Yahweh bless you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Interesting talking to you.
Thank you.
This meeting took place at the Knesset building in Jerusalem between Yisrayl Hawkins and Abdel Dahamshe, an Arab member of the Knesset from the town of Cana in Galilee. He was very open to supporting the plan for education in the basic moral laws as the way to peace.
The laws of peace, the basic laws of peace, the basic moral laws of peace. Even 2 hours a day or 1 hour a day, and start teaching 1 or 2 of these laws and the benefits of keeping those laws. You know what? If we now this peaceful solution right here was written by Ezekiel.
Yes.
But if we could get this peace taught to all people, we could have right here. We could have the temple there. The mosque could never be moved. A church could sit here, a Catholic monastery could sit there. You know, we could all be right there on the same hill and worshiping.
I understand.
I believe and
I believe and I agree. And I tell you that we can do it.
I appreciate your help.
We'll think it over. Now,
May Yahweh bless you.
Very
I
happy
hope
to
I
see
can
you.
work with you.
This next meeting was held in Jerusalem between Yisrayl Hawkins and David Bar-Ilan, who is the top advisor of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Mr. Bar-Ilan, after listening to the peace plan presented by Israel, also agreed that education is the key to peace.
Right here we have divisions in Israel. You know this, all among the different religions. Now there's no divisions among the laws. You know, the 613 laws that's found in the Torah. In fact, they bring us together and they teach us to be friends and neighbors and love your neighbor and so forth. And that's what I'm asking you to start thinking about and consider. I think that you will see enough this coming year to convince you that what I'm saying is right. And if you do, remember me, okay?
Yes, I will.
I'll work as hard as I can
And I agree with you.
and help in any way I can. We teach about peace. We teach we want peace. We try to trade land for peace and objects for peace. The problem is the way to peace is simply not being taught by mankind today. They don't just say peace.
لم يقولوا فقط سلام.
They teach you how to love one another.
These were but a few of the appointments that Israel had in the land of Israel during the spring of 1998.
I am urging the Israeli government to go to peace so that we, Egypt, will be the first country to support them.
I welcome all of you to come to Abilene because we've been practicing this for years.
Anything which I can do, please, and I will do my best.
I appreciate it very much. May Yahweh bless you.
This segment shows Yisrayl Hawkins' visit to Abilene, Israel. Israel met with several administrators and teachers. He spoke with them about the work that the House of Yahweh has been doing also since 1982. He told them of Yahweh's way of peace and of his desire to get everyone, not only in Israel but in all the world, educated in the ways of peace. The school officials were all in complete agreement with the ideas and plans presented by Israel and are eagerly looking forward to working with him to accomplish these goals of peace. Israel visited the location of the ancient city of Abilene. Although it was nearly completely destroyed in 1948, a few ruins of the ancient city of Abilene remain.
Opening remarks. Yisrayl Hawkins, conference co-convener and host.
The peaceful solution, of course, is what I represent, because I know that this will bring peace throughout the entire world when taught the way it's supposed to be. Every child that enters kindergarten is a potential killer. By the time they get 10 years old in America, and not one thing in our educational system would ever change this situation. Now, I know that people say, well, they know it's wrong. You know, there's enough out there for them to know it's wrong. And that could be. Some people, they do realize this, and some people do realize the fear that comes with getting caught of killing somebody or stealing something or something like that. But that doesn't change the heart or the mind, and that doesn't make that person, that doesn't change him from being a potential killer to someone who is bringing peace. What does that is education. What does that is education. There's a reason that the nations are infuriated with one another. And it didn't just come overnight, and of course it can't be solved overnight, but we can solve these problems, every problem they have, with the peaceful solution.
Yosef Haider, mayor of Ibilin, Israel.
Excuse me, I speak in Arabic. لقد كانت معرفتي بالسيد هوكنز سريعة حيث طرح موضوعا هاما حبذا لو يتحقق ويعمل به الناس والسياسيون والمربون.
When I met Mr. Hawkins, he suggested a great approach and ways for working together for people all over the world for peaceful solution.
ولكن هل هناك حل؟ هل هناك من حل؟ نعم، هناك حل للسلام العادل والثابت بإعادة الحقوق لأصحابها وإعطاء كل شعب الحق في تحقيق مصيره ومستقبله بحرية كاملة.
Is there a peace? Is there really a solution? Yes, there is. And the solution and the peaceful solution would be given the rights to all people who live in that land.
أعرف وأقدر أبحاثكم. أعرف وأقدر أبحاثكم وجهود السيد هوكنز أن هناك أمل.
I know your work and your hard work and research for the hard work for the solution of peace for that region.
وأن هناك مصدر القوة لا يستغله المجتمع المعاصر.
And there is a source of power that the world should actually take advantage of.
وهو 613 قانونا للسلام.
وهو 613.
Yes.
The law of 613 of peace. 613.
Yes.
The law of 613 of peace.
Vardan Varadanyan, Vice President of the Third Millennium Without Wars Union, Republic of Armenia.
I'm very, very sorry for my very, very bad English. Thank you very much. I cannot speak. I must read. Only in 20th century, from 900 to 990 years, over 130 wars happened on the earth, and about 120 million people perished. Humanity has enough financial means for the gradation, worldwide programs, education, culture of peace, as well as for their realization, which can lead to general decrease of violence. As Mr. Hawkins stated in his work, The Peaceful Solution, education in the proper laws of peace will change the minds and hearts of our children. Thank you very much.
Closing remarks by Dr. Oryema Johnson, co-convener.
Well, I'm very, very humbled, and thank you very, very much for being with us for 3 days. I came as a speaker and as a co-convener, but I'm going back as a student. You have been my best teachers for the last 3 days, and it is an experience I will cherish for life.
There was a UN journalist came, and I guess he's gone at this time, but he wanted to know what our plans was, and of course our plans are to go into all nations. Of course our plans are to go into all nations with this peaceful solution, and we do we do we do have people working with us that throughout the world now to make this thing possible. Of course, I know that Yahweh has opened these doors to us, and we're just fulfilling what He set in stage for us to do. But we've got to do so, and we're going to. The religions who are refusing to teach these laws of peace at this time can teach traditions which amount to nothing where it comes to righteousness or guiding one's heart to live in peace with his neighbors. You know, every person, I guess, on earth, every world leader at least, agrees with these laws, and that is, they agree that they are important in guiding a person's life to get along with one another. There's no better laws in all the world that I know of among any of the religions at all that would equal these laws that are found in what is called the inspired scriptures or the Holy Scriptures. Now, I know that we have our own little worlds that we live in, and many people have their little empires that they have built for themselves as a joy and something to bring joy to their own personal life. And it's like the king that you hear of in history, you know, so often that, you know, he was about to suffer disaster, but he says, it won't come on me. You know, it's going to come 30 or 40 years later. I'll be dead, so just let it go ahead and come. He didn't care. Well, this man had never been taught them laws, or he would have cared about, you know, because these laws, they teach a person to care. They change the attitudes of the people, the mind and the heart. I see a prophecy. Now, of course, Caspar Weinberger, he found from the study of man's history and from what he sees going on in man's governments today, he saw exactly what I'm seeing in prophecy. I believe the prophecies, and I'll tell you why. Because there's too many details of our time period. First off, Yahweh shows us through His prophets of old. He gives us names and dates to go by. He gives us things that are going to be taught, organizations that are going to be formed. In fact, there's an organization that he prophesied would be preaching this peaceful solution to all the world. It'd be preaching it and publishing it, he said. Those prophecies are in my book called The End. But this prophecy, for instance, it shows, like the prophet Daniel, he said there would be a 7-year peace agreement signed in Israel by a man named Rabin. Well, lo and behold, September the 13th, 1993, this prophecy was actually confirmed by a man named Rabin. Now, that in itself should be enough to show any fool on the face of the earth that we could trust in this prophecy. And this man knows what he's actually talking about. Now, is there still fools that don't believe it after that? Probably so, you know. Probably they think, well, it just so happened, like, you know, like Darwin's theory of creation, you know, of everything just happened out of one big bang or something. You know, this makes sense, doesn't it? It doesn't make as much sense as a group of beings much wiser than us could create mankind and the earth and then tell us in no uncertain terms, this will bring you curses, which it has. Daniel went even further than that. He said this peace plan was going to be in operation for 3.5 years and then be shut down. After Rabin's death, Netanyahu took over in Israel and shut the peace plan down after 3.5 years, just like Daniel said. Now, it looks like Daniel must have been alive somewhere and watching what was taking place in a future generation to write all these details down. Daniel said it would be shut down for a little over 3.5 years before it would start again, but he says it will start again, and then he shows the destruction that Caspar Weinberger saw is coming, I see is coming, the Pope, the Catholic Church, Malachi Martin sees is coming, and all of us wrote about it. I wrote about it from the prophecy, this prophecy, and the details in that prophecy would astound anyone if they could just get in it like I have for 50 years and study it closely like I have. And you'd see that these things are, the prophecies that he gives us in detail are coming to pass one by one by one. You're going to see the 7-year peace agreement put back in operation again. You're going to see destruction. It's not going to bring peace. We're going to bring peace. You and I working together. The reason I know we're going to bring peace is because the same prophets wrote about it. They say there's a group of people. This is also in her book called The End. A group of people is going to start teaching a peaceful solution. And there is a peaceful solution, and it's been there for 6,000 years. We've just ignored it. The only thing, see, we're getting to where we can't ignore it anymore. The prophecy shows, Daniel shows, that yes, the world is going to be in trouble, big trouble, in this time period. But Isaiah said that the earth is going to languish, it's going to vanish, it's going to fade away, and it's going to be burned and few men left. And that's what we see approaching now. We see, and it's going to take place according to Daniel's prophecy in the last few years of this 7-year agreement that is going to be signed in Israel very soon between the Palestinians and the Jewish people. It will be started up. That's not going to bring the end. What's going to bring this end is the hatred and separation of the people, and the hatred that's been put in their mind and heart, saying that's your enemy or that's your enemy, he's your enemy. If he doesn't belong to your church or your religion, he's your enemy. So let's have a holy war and kill that poor sucker over there because he's your enemy. Here's the prophecy that comes after Daniel's 3.5-year prophecy. It comes during that last 3.5 years. Isaiah, the prophet, was inspired to write that the earth is going to be made almost totally empty. In fact, he shows that there will be about 1/5 of the people, the population, left alive when this thing is over. But that 1/5, or that few people that's left alive, of course, he shows will be teaching and practicing the peaceful solution. Now, he says also, the earth mourns and fades away, the world mourns and fades away, the haughty people of the earth languish, the earth is defiled under the inhabitants of it, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, and broken the everlasting covenant. Well, we see that taking place right now. The minds of the people, the hearts of the people are defiled, and we see this throughout the earth. It won't do it. You know, big armies won't protect you. The United States, with as many missiles and bombs and everything that it has, it can't protect you. In fact, our own president says, get you a gas mask. Get you a gas mask for every man, woman, and child in America. This is what Clinton said. He said, we're not just facing nuclear war any longer. War is coming. Terrorists are are invading the lands. They're getting set up right now with whatever kinds of bombs they have. And according to our authorities, they are penetrating the United States. They're set up in strategic places. When they will strike, we don't know. We do know our intelligence committee of our United States says it's not a matter of if, now it's just when they're going to strike. But they are going to strike with full force. He says, because of this, the curse has devoured the earth, and they who dwell therein are desolate. Therefore the inhabitants of the earth are burned, are going to be burned, and few men left. The prophecies are so much in detail concerning this great burning. It's a nuclear burning that is going to take place. What they have in mind is destroying the enemy. The enemy they know is going to arise. What they're getting ready for is to protect themselves and go and kill the enemy while they're protecting themselves. This is what they're planning on doing. Our president now is planning on billions of dollars struck into a budget of a protection to keep the missiles from reaching the United States. Now we know that this is not going to work. And our top advisors tell us that it can only get about 1/3 of them at the best. With the best technology we have, it can only get about 1/3. I'd rather think about this peaceful solution and the group of people that Yahweh says to His prophets would actually be a part of bringing peace to the earth. Because we are going to save some. We won't stop the wars from coming. I believe that the prophecies are absolutely true because I see them coming to pass in detail. I've studied the prophecies for a little over 50 years now, and before most of these things took place, I wrote about them in my books. I wrote about this 7-year plan back in the 70s. I knew it was going to take place. I believe that the nuclear wars will come. But I believe a certain group of people, and I believe I see them sitting right here right now, I believe that we will accomplish what is foretold by the prophets that we will guide a certain amount of people to standing up against nuclear arms, and when man has destroyed the amount of people from his nuclear devices, I believe they will never be used again. I believe that this history that we see painted for us in the Holy Scriptures will actually be fulfilled. The ones who survive this ordeal will be us and more, of course. I see about 2 billion people being left alive and turning to the peaceful solution. That's what I see in prophecy.
I recall that at one juncture, I believe you said that the end of the earth was going to come in the year 2000. Then it was upped to this. I have your book with me by Yisrayl Hawkins, The Explosion of Sin, Birth of the Nuclear Baby. Now, as I recall, you predicted the end of the world via a nuclear baby that was to occur in September of 2006, September 12, as I recall. Well, that has passed. Then it moved up to 2007. It is currently 2008. What happened to the nuclear baby?
The nuclear baby was prophesied to take place at that time, and if you got the articles, now we published that book before the date was to take place. But after we published the book, then the news articles started coming in showing the nuclear pains of a baby or a nuclear war that is going to take place. We have the articles now, and if you, I don't know if you got those news articles or not, but they showed the exact dates that the Scripture showed. The nuclear war was attempted, but it didn't take place. Now, Revelation 7 shows that Yahweh himself held that war back for a time period. But it's, Nancy, this is going to take place, and it's taking place right now.
My question is, you convinced your followers...
They are getting ready for nuclear war.
Yes, I'm sure they are. But you convinced your followers that there would be a nuclear war in 2006 and 2007. As I recall, you brought it up to occur in 2000. It hasn't happened. What became of the prophecy? How were you so misled by Yahweh?
I wasn't misled, and I didn't mislead the people either. If you will, the nuclear war is shown in chapter 6 of Revelation. Now, it's shown in chapter 9, chapter 7.
I'm not arguing about Revelations. I'm not arguing about John the Revelator. I am asking you about your prophecy. But if you're not going to answer...
My prophecies are coming to pass. Yes, they're coming to pass now. Yahweh held back the nuclear war, of course. Yahweh held back the nuclear war, and he's holding it back. But it won't be held back for long.
Let me ask, Mr. Hawkins, I know that you preach, I believe it is the 613 rules,
613.
Laws. And I'm just wondering...
613.
Mr. Hawkins, I noticed that some of your sermons warn your congregation that the outside world is dangerous and unclean.
I've been on the air for almost 20 years now, but the world is so unclean right now, Nancy, that you can get STDs from touching doorknobs. You should know this because the articles come out daily.
Mr. Yisrayl Hawkins, leader of the House of Yahweh, he is facing about 100 years behind bars.
You're going to be greatly surprised when you find the truth on this. We have had threats on our lives because I am teaching that sin causes all of these curses that we're now suffering.
What curses are those?
STDs, the world going into famine right now, the nuclear baby that is about to be turned loose.
You espouse that sin, that God sends us disease, Holocaust, nuclear war because we have sinned?
We are the ones that's causing this to come upon ourselves because Isaiah 24, 1 through 6, if you'll read that, it says, because you have changed the laws, transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, broken the everlasting covenant, because of this, the curse has devoured the earth.
What you have seen in this video is all in fulfillment of Matthew 24:14. And this message of the kingdom will be preached to all the world as a witness to all nations, and then the end will come.
3, 2, 1...
Wow, just 16 years ago, Yisrayl Hawkins brought that message to the world and is continuing to do so to this very day. And those words still ring true today. Well, if you're concerned about the current state of affairs that we're in right now, if you're wanting to protect yourself and your family, your loved ones from the pending wars that we see, along with the famines and disease and pestilences that are ravaging all nations, well, contact the House of Yahweh, and when you do, don't forget to request your free copies of the monthly newsletter and the Prophetic Word magazine. Here's how. To contact the House of Yahweh, you can write them at P.O. Box 2498, Abilene, Texas 79604. You can also call them at 1-800-613-9494, or visit them on any of their websites at www.yahweh.com, www.yisraelhawkins.com, or www.yahwehsbranch.com. You can also visit our website by going to www.ypnnews.com. You can email the House of Yahweh at info@yahweh.com. And for all calls outside the United States, please dial the number on your screen. And of course, don't forget the best study resource to the Holy Scriptures, the Yisrael Says and Ask Yisrael programs, which are free for your use online. You can use that right now by going to www.yisraelsays.com and www.askyisrael.com. Well, don't go anywhere. Up next, Yisrayl Hawkins as he continues to bring forth not only the warning to mankind of what their ways will bring, but the peaceful solution to ensure safety, peace, joy, and healthy minds and bodies for all who put it to practice in their lives. For YPN News, I'm Katan Alexander. Thank you for watching.